Morning, everyone. Welcome to week 4 of 1101. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. This week, we're going to look at lesson planning and we're going to look at doing it with a backward design. And we're going to talk about some curriculum. So, again, if you haven't read through chapter 10, please do that. If you have read through chapter 10, be helpful if you reviewed pages 307 to 313. That's where they really talk about curriculum. And briefly, because curriculum is a whole huge can of worms, right? You can get a doctoral degree in curriculum. So we're not going to really dive real deep into curriculum in this unit. But hopefully, reading through chapter 10 will give you a broad overview, right? And you'll know that curriculum is how we're going to implement the standards in our classroom. Curriculum is the meat and potatoes. It's our everyday, what we're doing as a teacher with those students. And curriculum is really what, right, it drives our day-to-day classes. Curriculum is usually created by a committee. So we kind of get a bunch of people together and we decide, all right, based on these standards, we want students to do these activities. We want them to learn this. We're going to present it in this way. Here's all our tests. Here's our activities. X, Y, and Z. They go through the whole thing. Curriculum writing can be a very contentious process because, as you probably know, you bring a lot of people together. It's really hard to get them to agree. A lot of these curriculum committees who write curriculum, they'll have teachers on them, they'll have administrators on them, they'll have oftentimes community members, so they'll even have students in them. To agree is never an easy task. So curriculum is oftentimes it's not perfect, right? There's compromises that you have to make in order to make people happy. So there should always be a revision process to curriculum. A curriculum that you write one time and then use forever is no good, right? Because our world is evolving so fast that it quickly becomes outdated. Our viewpoints change, our society changes, technology changes, and all those things need to go into writing curriculum. So a good district will allow teachers and admin to get together at least every other year to review their curriculum and to make those changes, right? We all know, you've all heard kind of the viral stories about bad curriculum where you can't teach sex ed, or in some states they just allowed PE teachers to teach yoga again. They banned yoga for whatever reasons. We've all heard the examples of racist curriculum. So we should always be looking at our curriculum and trying to make it better, right? That's not to say that at the classroom level you can't make changes, in right there that day. If you need it, you can do that. Teachers do have some of that freedom, right? And again, good curriculum will allow teachers to have some of that freedom in their classroom. But at the district level, we should be looking at curriculum often and making changes and making it better, and making it stronger for our students. Okay, so that's kind of my little soapbox on curriculum. So what are we gonna, how are we gonna kind of jump into the curriculum topic today? I'm actually going to skip this one for now. We're going to look at something called understanding by design, and that is a way to write curriculum. It's a very popular way to write curriculum. It's one that a lot of districts use. It's quite often abbreviated UBD. It's really nothing. It's nothing like, it's not a magic bullet. It's not a magic pill or anything like that to write curriculum, but it is what's known as backwards design. So you start with what you want. It's kind of like you have the destination first. You got to figure out where you want your students to be, what you want them to know, and then based on that, you then create the curriculum to get them there. And so I've given you this website here, hosted by Vanderbilt, and it does a much better job going through UBD because this video here, Grant Wiggins, he's the one who actually developed this system and made a lot of money selling his system, right? It's good. It's a really good one. So he'll go through and kind of describe UBD and how you go through the process. So please read through this and watch the video because you're going to need it for this activity number 3. You are going to, all right, so here, let me back up again. I'm going to jump back to 2. Last week we talked about standards, right? And you should know that standards aren't curriculum. It's not how we teach. It's just what we want students to know, right? It's our benchmarks where students should go. So what you're going to do is you're going to find those standards. You're going to have them, you should have found them last week. You're going to take those standards and create a brochure for parents and students to describe what the standards are. So it should be something that is accessible to parents. It shouldn't have teacher speak, right? It should be very kind of the watered down summary of your standards. And I want you to create a brochure. You can use whatever technology you want, whatever software program you want. You could do it in Word, you could do it in a Google Doc, you can use something cool like Canva or Adobe Spark, but make something that looks professional that you would give to parents to say, hey, here's our standards for this year in 3rd grade ELA. This is what your student is going to be learning, right? That's pretty much all you need to do here. The key is you're going to submit it to Weebly. You're going to put it on your professional prep page, not your reflection page. And then in Blackboard, you'll submit a link so I know to go in there and check it out. So now that we have our standards and you've kind of dug through them a little bit to summarize them, you're going to kind of go through this understanding by design process here. And I've given you a template to fill out. I think I have it. Oh, there's my example. And this is a very simplified version of the UBD process. You're essentially going to take one of your standards, you're going to put it up here, and we're going to go through stage 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to tell me what that might look like in a classroom. All right, so it's easier than it may look. Here's my example. So as a high school engineering and technology teacher, we use these standards. I showed these to you last week. And I just chose standard 12. Students will develop the abilities to use and maintain technological products and systems. So I need to go through, right, and look at the benchmarks. I should know that, or my students should be able to use manuals and protocols, use tools, operate and maintain systems or machines. You know, in high school, they should be able to document the process of that, both in written and oral. Diagnose systems, fix those systems, troubleshoot them, right? So there's a lot of things here that go on with the standard. Notice it doesn't tell me how they will do this, right? So that's what I'm trying to develop here. I'm going to develop the how. So I looked at stage 1. What should students here read, view, explore? What knowledge should they master? What are the big ideas, right? That's what stage 1 is. This is the end goal right here. So in order to meet this standard, what do students need to know and do? They should know how to set up, maintain, and use machine tools. They should understand that each machine has a specific function. You can add accessories to expand its function. And they should understand how to select the correct machine to safely and efficiently complete a required operation. So how are they going to do these things, right? So how am I going to know that students have done these things, that they can do these? They are going to be observed using the machines. There's going to be a checklist that they're going to be evaluated on. So if they walk over to a table saw, do they do steps A, B, C, and D before they cut? They're going to create some projects, and those projects are going to be scored with a rubric to make sure that their outcome using the machines are correct. And then they're going to create some sort of reflection or write up. They'll talk to me through that process, and they'll write up, okay, I did this, then I did this, then I did this. I could have done this better. I did this great. So they'll do some sort of reflection. How are they going to do those things? Well, they're going to use operator manuals. So they'll need to download and find those manuals in order to maintain and set up the machines. They're going to watch demonstrations. So I will show them how to go through the maintenance, setup, and usage of the machines. I'll show them how to safely do it. They will have safety checklists that they will have to perform. They're going to, what kind of materials do they need besides those machines? Well, they're going to need access to cameras and Chromebooks so they can download manuals, so they can take pictures, so they can create their reflections, right? So again, this is a very basic outline of going through the UBD process. But I want you to take this seriously, because using this document and your observations from last week of the teacher going through her ELA lesson, we're going to use those two documents from last week and this week to do our first lesson plan next week. Okay? If you read through the syllabus closely, you'll notice that I changed up kind of the order here a little bit. This syllabus is from the face-to-face class, and students really struggled with this lesson plan here in week 3. So what I've done is I've really broken it up, and we're scaffolding it in for you. And I think that having this document this week with the UBD and seeing the lesson plan and observing the lesson last week will help you with your first lesson plan. So we've kind of pushed these lesson plans back a little bit here. All right, but next week, week 5, we'll actually do our first lesson. So you can see here when I created mine, I didn't necessarily answer each question, bullet points or whatever. I just wrote a little narrative that answered them all kind of at once. And that's totally fine. If you want to bullet point every single one, if you want to put this question and answer it underneath it, that's fine too. So that's activity 2 and 3. In your last thing this week is, again, just a little reflection that you're going to post on your Weebly. You have a scenario, right? So you're a new hire. Maybe it's your first year, maybe your second year. And you go to your mentor to ask about the curriculum. Obviously, that's an important part of your job, right? And your mentor says, don't worry about it. Just open up the textbook that the district provided. Start teaching with chapter 1. Make sure you get through the book by the end of the year. A couple questions here for you to answer. Do you think your mentor has given you good advice? Why or why not? And do you think the textbook is curriculum? Why or why not? Why do you think that? As always, if you have questions, concerns, comments, you can email me, or you can use the classroom Padlet and let me know. I have, as I go through things and grade your work, I make sure to put comments on anything that you can, improve on. So please go back if you see those comments, you make changes to your work from previous weeks, drop me an email and say, hey, Matt, I improved on this. I made those changes. Can you rescore it? And I'm happy to do that. All right. So we can always rescore these things. You can always submit things for regrading and reassessment. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.